So we're back. Looks like it looks like there's still a good bit about left. I really couldn't figure out where it came from. Um, so yesterday we got sort of cut short from because of the rain. And it looks like we are getting somewhat. Oh, I wonder why all that looked familiar. I was like, oh, we really got through a lot more of that section than I thought we would. Um, So picture of the fantasy and science fiction in your favorite bookstore in the 1970s and 80s. Bruce Pennington's style is immediately unmistakable. Richly imaginative landscapes ranging from apocalyptic desolation to biomorphic extravagance. Ruined cities smoldering in the distance under the haze of an alien sun. In interviews, Pennington references painters such as Bosch, Martin, Fuseli, and Dodd among the artists that have influenced his work. It's always a delightful exercise to pore over his atmospheric, far-flung worlds and catch glimpses of these fantastical inspirations, while never once forgetting that Pennington is a luminary in his own right, with his own unique and fabulous vision for futures that might have been or never were. Symbolist, Golden Age illustrator, and painter Sidney Herbert Syme was an English artist in the late Victorian period. Syme is largely remembered for his fantastic and satirical artwork brimming with fin de Sicile elegance, delicate line work, and its manifestation of the uncanny, and for his illustrations of Irish author and poet Lord Dunsany's stories in particular. Indeed, it is remarked that one can scarcely imagine a Dunsany story without the visionary drawings of Syme. In Dunsany's 1905 story collection, The Gods of Pegana, Syme illustrates the remote dream worlds and myths from a lost culture, the invented pantheon of deities who dwell in Pegana. In Paris in 1873, Ilya Efimовich Repin began this work inspired by a traditional Russian poem. It depicts the story of Sadko, a wealthy Novgorod merchant who falls into the underwater kingdom of the Sea Tsar. Invited to choose between several fiancées, he elects Chernavushka. The Russian girl, Repin, worked on this painting for 3 years. Without being satisfied with it, he felt that this fantastic theme treated with precious details and refined colors would not be in line with his ambition as a realistic painter. Nevertheless, the artist presented Sadko to the Academy of Fine Arts in St. Petersburg on his return in 1876, and thanks to this work so foreign to the rest of his production, the title of academician. So I'm going to be very curious Imagine she probably just couldn't get the rights for it. She's gotten several of these very Roger Dean. Is it Roger? Robert? Yeah, it's Roger, isn't it? Inspired artists. This one, in particularly, more so. Contemporary artist Danny Flynn carries with him a lifelong interest in science fiction and fantasy, as well as a deep appreciation for wildlife and the beauty of the natural world. Add to that a dash of artistic influences, Dolly and Magritte, a smidgen of Parrish, and a healthy dollop of ethereal, mystical, electronic music from Vangelis or Tangerine Dream. And you have a recipe for Flynn's landscapes from another dimension, magical worlds and secret places brimming with eye-popping color, extraterrestrial flora and fauna, and powerfully strange architecture are but a few of the details you will find in this artist's extraordinary body of work, splashed across massive paintings and several scores of vivid book jackets. Best known as one of the finest book illustrators of the 19th. Is this the second Dory we have in this section? I think so. Was a gifted and widely popular artist in his own lifetime. His spectacular visions laid many of the foundations of the fantasy art we see today. This remarkably inventive artist was guided by his own imagination and produced extraordinary scenes of dreamlike intensity, where fantasy and reality overlap, in large-scale canvases and sculptures, as well as insightful ink drawings and detailed engravings. From those iconic melting clocks to imaginative visual illusions and avant-garde symbols, it's safe to say that we instantly recognize the unparalleled weirdness and fantastical hand of celebrated surrealist artist Salvador Dali when we see it. In Dali's marvelous 1952 portrait of his wife Gala, the artist harmoniously portrays her face in a graceful matrix of fragmented spheres, suspended in space. The structure of DNA fascinated Dali, and this work, a Gala universe consisting of many Gala worlds continually merging, is the result of a Dali impassioned by science and the theories of the disintegration of the atom in the period of nuclear mysticism. This is the same one I'm thinking of. I've seen it, and it is surprisingly huge, which I don't think you really get the sense of that. It's, I believe, one of his largest works. In the mid-20th century, art historians identified the works previously attributed to Monsieur Desideriel as being by at least three different painters, Francois Denon and Didier Barra, both originally from Metz, and a third artist whose name is unknown. These works comprise ghostly architectural scenes, crumbling and bizarre and fantastic, throughout the ages. Are there really any worlds so ghastly and fantastical to contemplate as hell? A soft glow illuminates the theatrical chiaroscuro of Noam's Baroque version of The Bad Place, wherein there is an absolute extravagance of tormented souls plummeting, pitching, and plunging from every great height and veritably stuffed into every nook and cranny. Yet chaos does not reign eternally. They are tidily queued up for judgment as well. Flemish painter Jules de Montper the Younger specialized in craggy mountainous landscapes, both the topographically accurate sort as well as the fantastically aligned. And with these striking picturesque works, achieved great success during his lifetime. In fact, he was thought to be one of the greatest landscape painters of his period. His allegorical portrayal of the seasons took form a series of somber anthropomorphic landscapes, carefully composed with a variety of seasonal details. Trees and their changing foliage, animals, birds, and humans. Early modern Europe delighted in this kind of allegorical imagery, with pictures not merely pleasing to the eye but inspiring curiosity of the mind as well. Meanwhile, the mind resting within this wintry mountain's head seems to be having a nice snooze. Offering lush, complex glimpses into the inner journeys of expanded states of consciousness, contemporary visionary Martina Hoffmann paints portals into parallel worlds steeped in mystical atmosphere and profound biological energies, such as this verdant moonlit Elysium, where the shadows are glossy and glowing. Dazzling and dreamlike as these vistas may be, they are more than mere surreal canvases of psychedelic brushstrokes. These works are ecstatic experiences and spiritual awakenings, introspective meditations on the infinite power of imagination and the vast potential of human transformation. Visionary and idealist Nicholas Roerich kept himself very busy. His pursuits were many and varied. Artist, scholar, archaeologist, adventurer, editor, writer. He promoted peace, the protection of the world's cultural heritage, and the notion that creative people of the world bear the responsibility to save the world. And he was also a great seeker of hidden mysteries, the pursuit of which are reflected in his art and writings. Roerich's The Most Sacred Treasure of the Mountain explores the idea of questing for riches, but not the glittering bankable sort. The painting's beautifully fantastic gemstone encrusted caverns are not indicative of material wealth, but rather the spiritual treasure that's available to all who are willing to reach inside themselves for it. Hark, what a buzzing and humming there is. Such are the festivities and fun attended by mermaids, ghosts, hobgoblins, and imps at the Feast of Elf Hill in Hans Christian Andersen's 1845 fairy tale. For this evening of merriment, the Elf King has invited the Goblin King of Norway and his unruly sons to a feast where his daughters, potential brides for goblin suitors, will display their talents. These are not entirely useful or desirable talents as it happens, and the goblin boys are unimpressed. Here in this strikingly vivid illustration By Harry Clark, the elf maidens perform a frenzied, flying, feverish dance with swirling shawls woven of mist and moonlight. The enduring mysteries of our dreams have long captivated artists. But where do we go when we dream? Yeah, well, there's been like a couple others this section, but not nearly as bad. Um, she literally had a section on dreams. So it feels very arbitrary and sort of muddled. Sort of. The which is, I don't know, I think that's a first for this book from her, because in the others, I feel like at least it was very clear, um, you know, why things were in certain sections, but in this one it's all very muddled about. Austrian Impressionist Otto Friedrich Karl Lendeck offers us insight in the snapshot of a slumbering soul blissfully transported by the delirious acrobatics of a flock of cherubim to the land of dreams. Much of this painter, sculptor, and illustrator's body of work consists of watercolor illustrations for fashion journals. But even in those pieces in the soft shadowy fold of fabric, the fantastical patterns embellishing a lady's cape, it's apparent this fellow was a pro daydreamer well acquainted with the other worlds of a vast imagination. Contemporary artist and storyboard artist, contemporary illustrator and storyboard artist, Victor Nagai reveals elaborate worlds filled with intricate narratives and brimming with curious detail, where the mundane morphs into the magical. Yet the otherworldly and outlandish ring somehow familiar. In this visual storyteller's utopia, a massive bullfrog gawps majestically on a lily pad at the center of a drowned and ruined metropolis, giving the viewer an astonishing view down its gullet, where a serene expanse of nature flourishes, untroubled by the horror of the world just outside its amphibious sanctuary. Go ahead and skip this one, as I'm sure you recognize it since it was highlighted extensively when we were covering the Bosch book. Not sure whether we want to go ahead. No, let's go ahead and do it. That way we should be able to wrap this up next time if we get about halfway through. Yeah, I'm skipping this opening. It seems like a whole lot of nothing. Though I guess she does say some things I agree with, that you know, it's really kind of sad that, just because it's been used in genre fiction or pertains to you know, genre that, a lot of people tend to look down on, that work is not being, you know, um, as pure, I guess, as other art. In a world where the skies are ablaze with music and flashing lights, where sightings of the unidentified flying object are causing mass confusion, and atop many of the most recognizable monuments and landmarks, mysterious black and gold flags have appeared. What the heck is happening and who is responsible? In Robur the Conqueror, science fiction master Jules Verne imagines two warring factions of brilliant inventors that have each developed the flight technology they believe will usher humanity into the future. These adventures and intrigues were visually depicted by French illustrator and painter Leon Bennett, who illustrated 25 novels from Jules Verne's Voyages Extraordinaires series. Jauntily sailing past an elevated restaurant and opera house, there are flying cars, buses, and airborne means of transportation. The sky is swarming with these cloud-adjacent conveyances, tootling Victorian-garbed folks to and from their destinations. Fabulous visionary Albert Robida was a French illustrator, lithographer, and novelist who began drawing at a young age and later drew cartoons and illustrations for various journals, but he is best known for his futuristic work of revelatory visions and startling predictions of the mechanized society of the 20th century. This masterpiece is a trilogy of anticipatory novels in which he shows his creative insights about the technical wonders of our future. Creature comforts and includes novels Le 20e siècle, La guerre à 20e siècle, and Le 20e siècle, La vie électrique. Twisting and beautiful, otherworldly spires tower impossibly skyward to disappear in the distant mists. A vision of gilded utopia beckons. In the foreground, a tangled profusion of labyrinthine archways squats in rubble. Spectral smoke hangs heavy on the ground, and there is nary a soul about, hinting that perhaps much was lost to this golden city's rise to magnificence. What is the story here? Dutch artist Geoffrey Bochart described his works as realism based on studies of psychology, religion, the Bible, astrology, antiquity, magic, witchcraft, mythology, and occultism. A mystical and fabulous word soup that, when taken into consideration alongside his enigmatic imagery, one can say with absolute confidence, it all makes sense now. Gather round and hear of the outrageous exploits and outstanding adventures of Baron Munchausen. His feats includes riding cannonballs, pulling himself out of a bog by his own hair, and traveling to the moon. A fictional character created in the late 18th century who has been everywhere, seen everything, done it all, and given any chance he'll tell you all about it whether you want him to or not. Baron Munchausen narrative of his marvelous travels and campaigns in Russia by Rudolf Erich Raspe would also inspire a film and a number of stage productions. Various artists have illustrated the Baron's preposterous tales, most notably Gustave Doré. She's hitting him up a lot. So it's either 3 sections in a row or 2 last section and 1 this section. Responsible for the quintessential image of the Baron as we know him today, and who created this image of a dreadful hurricane that propelled his ship above the clouds to a shining island that turned out to be the moon. Robert Venosa was a master of the numinous, a painter of cosmic realms and crystalline worlds whose dazzling paintings kindled the imaginations of many and greatly impacted the world of visionary art during his long and varied career. A creator of mythical mindscapes and timeless vistas of wondrous realities, his fantastic visions reflected a great spiritual curiosity, emblematic of the vast creature universe that he tapped into. What grows in dazzling, fertile lands such as these? If we go by the looks of these 3 ethereal, shimmering specimens of flora, can only imagine the millions of botanical delights Venosa was growing in the celestial greenhouse of his soul. The artwork of contemporary artist Paul Lewin explores ancestral elements, ancient ancestors, futuristic ancestors, I see a theme here, interdimensional ancestors, and riveting narratives charged with meaning, history, mystery, and mysticism, inspired by nature, Afro-Caribbean culture, folklore, and science fiction. Lewin's swirling, jewel-toned hypnotic figures transport the viewer forwards and backwards simultaneously to alternate worlds where visions of the past and the future are reimagined, reconstructed, and reformed. From his well-known humorous drawings to his fanciful illustrations for Kipling, Shakespeare, or children's stories, William Heath Robinson was a prolific artist whose quirky, inventive body of works is considered integral to British cultural heritage. Heath Robinson reveled in fussy gadgetry and elaborate contraptions, and found that absurdly overcomplicated machinery would serve as a metaphor for the bureaucracy and arcane processes that people tend to invent. This charming combination of whimsicality and weirdness is found in such works as Aerial Life, an excellent example of Heath Robinson's droll, utopian vision. Franciszek Kupka was a Czech painter and graphic artist interested in cosmic forces and the occult, concepts he incorporated into his early creations. Though he gradually evolved a very abstract style, the color symphonist sought to express his beliefs regarding religion, geometry, and music through the harmonies produced via color and line rather than recognizable imagery. The creative ability of an artist is manifested only if he succeeds and transforming the natural phenomena into another reality. Kupka once reflected the reality for this lonely pilgrim traveling a silent, sphinx-lined pathway is that with his head perpetually bowed in contemplation, he may never see the way out through the starry horizon that lies just before him. From fantastical specters to mythic beings to epic adventures, the intriguing portfolio of Lawrence Schwinger includes the fantastical fodder across many genres, and his book cover roster is a masterful who's who of beloved contemporary fantasy authors. Many of the artist's visions have a multi-layered, hazy atmosphere and a gorgeously subdued color palette. And his cover art for preeminent 20th century science fiction and fantasy writer Octavia E. Butler takes that a step further. In this earth and flesh tone moody, evocative conjuration of the author's most popular and enduring work, our eyes are drawn to the two figures, each drawn to the other through time, with the negative space between them cleverly forming the top half of an hourglass. Might go ahead and actually be able to finish this. We'll see after I get through this page. In the realm of imaginary explorations, there's perhaps none so iconic as the world-renowned visionary John Harris. The spectacular paintings are a window to the immensities of the universe, glimpses of hazy, vibrantly colored vistas and shattered moons, the impossible grandeur and inevitable decay of towering cities, and a strange melancholy, an ominous impression of the impending end of all things. His paintings have been used on book covers for many authors, including Clark Asimov and Scalzi. This portrait, brimming with deep space secrets and incendiary, vengeful rage, has not been used on a cover but is noted as very much belonging to The Stars Are My Destination by Alfred Bester. Frank Kelly Freas is considered one of the most popular science fiction artists of the 20th centuries, with luminous, whimsical illustrations in a staggering number of magazines and books, such as the cover art for Dinosaur Beach Above, which is not a travel brochure for prehistoric monsters, but rather an adventure thriller detailing the terrifying odyssey of a hard-boiled time cop pitted against a time-tampering teen from the future. Characterized by expressive figures, mischievous creativity, and always with an element of storytelling, Freas' images ranged from pop to pulp, from fantastical to gritty to humorous. After his picture of a moonlit flute-playing satyr on the cover of the November 1950 Weird Tales began 50 years of professional illustrating, he helped refine the satirical smirk of Mad Magazine's Alfred E. Newman. And apparently a werewolf drawing by Freas can even be glimpsed in a classroom scene in the movie of The Prisoner of Azkaban. An enthusiast of Roman, Greek, and Egyptian architecture, Italian artist, architect, and antiquarian Giovanni Battista Perenzi employed his fantastical genius to create imaginings of ancient buildings and mysterious ruins, complex, dizzying spaces that defied the rules of logic and reality. These impossible geographies also included ominous prison-like structures and confines, immense buildings observed from extreme perspectives, with endless gloomy staircases, bridges, vaults, and labyrinths. This carceri, meaning prison or dungeon, series was not conceived of for commercial work, but merely a private experimental outlet for the artist's incredible imagination. A surrealist architectural dreamscape in the remote jungles of Mexico. In the sprawling gardens of Las Pozas, one can find fantastically imaginative structures with names like the house on 3 floors, which will in fact have 5 or 4 or 6, the house with a roof like a whale, and the staircase to heaven, an avant-garde menagerie of concrete archways, sculptures, and columns amid the lush flora. This vision of paradise, which began as a simple orchid garden, was envisioned by Edward James, a wealthy English aristocrat, poet, and artist described by Salvador Dali as crazier than all the surrealists put together. So that should bring us to the end for today. So it looks like we do have just the final section. So we should be finishing that tomorrow. I might have to figure out something to bring to fill out the rest of the time. Since, well, we'll see how that opening looks. Because especially if I end up skipping her introduction to the section again, that'll probably leave us a bit short on time. Or, yeah. But yeah, that should be it for today.